the Super Bowl.
Hey guys, so in preparation for getting the supercharger installed, because I'm planning on doing that most likely in about 2 weeks to 4 weeks. So in preparation for doing that, I need to install one more gauge because I need to get the tune for this. And in order to get the proper tune, I need the airflow numbers data to be sent in with the rest of the data. So in order to do that, I need to install a particular AEM wideband air flow sensor. And I know you guys already know that I already did some installation of some gauges, but this is the wideband one that I definitely need to install up in there. And so I thought I'll walk you guys through exactly how I'm installing that. The only part I'm not going to have on here is actually doing the part where I do the sensor into the exhaust. That's going to be on the part 2. But I just wanted to show you guys just how to run everything so you can have those gauges just where you need them. I know some of you guys who have been following along are saying, hey, didn't you just install gauges just recently with the air fuel? Well, that wasn't a wideband one. And so I need the wideband air fuel gauge up on there so when I do get my tune done, because the tune is going to be a mail-in tune over at Tracy Lewis. And so when you're doing it that way, you want to give them as much information as possible. So them having the air fuel ratio in the readings, that's going to help them out a lot. So what makes this thing great is, as you notice on here, you have the pass-through OBD2 plug right here. So you're able to plug this in, and then when you have your HP tuner and you plug that into the other side of here, it's going to pick up your readings from your air fuel and put that into the file that you're going to be sending off to have your mail order tune. So this is very important for that, and so it needs to be the wideband. So what comes in this kit right here, you get your gauge, of course, and you get the O2 sensor. And you also get your cabling to run it from the O2 sensor up to the gauge. And this is also part of that too as well, the cabling that you'll need. And you also get the bong up in here too that you will need to have welded onto your exhaust pipe to be able to plug in your O2 sensor. Of course, if you're doing the downstream O2 sensor delete, you can probably just use that hole, I'm assuming, but that's not what's going to be happening here. So I'll be having this welded in as well. So why don't we go inside and I'll show you where I'm planning on mounting this. If you remember, in the previous video, we installed this over here, the Air Force gauges. But to have this wideband air fuel one from AEM, I'm going to be installing it in the my gauge holder up here. So it'll go right about there. So let's go ahead and take all this stuff apart and get it all connected up. All right, so the first thing we want to do is figure out how we're going to run the cabling from the interior to the exterior. So we're just going to go underneath and see if we can find any grommets that we can use as our access point. We'll remove this panel right here and see if that gives us access to some of the grommets to lead out to the exterior. To remove this panel up here, it's just 3 Phillips head screws. All right, I don't know if you can see this, but this cable right here goes down to a big rubber bladder that appears to give me access right outside. I'll probably just make a little slit in there and we should be able to get access. Now I've just got to make sure I can see it from the outside. All right, so I'm going to take this wire here, take a coat hanger, whatever you have, and see, I'm going to push it through the bladder, and then I'm going to go to the outside and see if I can find it. And if so, this will be the point that I will use. All right, so I took my blade and I slid up into there. Not too big of a blade hole, but enough to be able to get my wire through. All right, out to the other side. Now let's go see if we can find it out there. All right, because of where it's located, you're not going to be able to see it from with the camera. Basically, it's going to be hidden, but I'll show you roughly where you should be able to find it if you use that same access point. So that access point, as you can see, we're on the driver's side. You know, there's your brake master cylinder over here, and so we're going right down in here, and you see your booster right here, your brake booster. Here, let me bag it up a little bit. There we go. You see your brake booster over here. We're going to go down there because it's really right below your brake booster. So you have to go down blindly and reach underneath your brake booster, and you will feel the wire. So I'm actually touching that wire now, and I'm going to see if I can get enough grip on it and pull it up. And there it is. There's the wire. All right, so now I'm going to run one of the wires in. I'm going to run this one first, simply because I'm already with the wire on the outside, and this plugs into the O2 sensor. So this plug needs to be on the outside. So this needs to go from the inside with the smaller head, you know, for the small hole that it's got to go through from this end. Now, when we're talking about why aren't I doing both at the same time? Because it's the opposite on this one. The OBD2 port needs to be on the inside. So what I'm going to do here is I'm going to run that one from this wire from the inside and pull it out. So we got to do them opposite. It is what it is. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take the wire, I'm going to tape it up to this right here and pull it on through. Well, one little thing, guys, before I pull the cord all the way through is that in the end, I really didn't need to drop this down, because once I pull back my my floor mat back here, the bladder is right there. So you don't have to really remove this at all to have access. You got full access to it without pulling that down. And there's the cable. All right, so this time we're going to be running the one for the ODD port. So of course we want this plug inside, so we're going to be running it from the inside going outside this time. And on the end of this cord right here, you have this plug right here that goes back into the back of the gauge that you want to stay on the inside, right? But this one right here is the one with the power wire, power and ground. And I'm going to use the fuse box that's out there to find a a fuse that actually turns on with the ignition. So I'm going to run this one outside. So this part, these two parts stays inside, okay? So we're just going to connect this side up to the wire to run outside. And here's the cable now on this side. All right, so now that we have our cables here, what we want to do, this right here is your steering wheel right here, you know, the shaft for your steering wheel, the column for your steering wheel, that is. So now I'm just going to route these back here and up through behind here up to where my gauge pod will be. And as you see, you got this gap between here. I'm going to fish it through there, and it's going to drop me off right where I need to be at, where my gauge pods will end up being at. As you see, it's perfect. My gauge pods will be right here, so I will be able to just plug it right into the gauges. All right, so now I'm going to remove this cover over here to get access to my fuse panel and to my fuse box. No, I'm not in a house. And so I'm going to see which one of these actually turn on when I actually turn the ignition on. Or just turn the power on, not the actual ignition, but just turn the key into the forward position, the number 2 position, to have power to it. And so what I'm going to use one of these fusible links to be able to do it. That way I can tap in there and have my power wire running right out of there to connect my power wire. Now, in case you don't know, this is how it's going to work. They have more simpler ones out here, but this is what I have. So this is what I'm going to use, the one I have. You're going to move this to the DC. See the V with the squiggly line and then the broken up squiggly line? You want to set it to that. You can even see the DC down in the corner. And what you're going to do is you're going to take this over, and as you can see, there is a ground wire right over here. So you're going to take your black one and hold it on that while you are checking each fuse. And in the fuse, as you see, you got the metal openings in the back of each fuse. You just touch one side, either side. If you're seeing 12 volts when you touch it on here, it'll show 12. That's letting you know that that's a live one, so that is not a good candidate. When you run into one that isn't pushing out 12 volts, that would be a good candidate. And then the way we're going to test it after we do that, so I'm going to stick my, first I got to put a fuse in there. Let me get a fuse. I'll put a fuse in here. All right. And then I'm going to touch and see what I get. All right, I'm not getting 12 volts, which is good. So I'm going to go inside and turn the car on and then see if I get 12 volts after that. All right, so now I have the key in the number 2 position, and I'm going to test this out again. All right, so I ended up going with spot number F37. The one for the sunroof was giving me inconsistent readings, so I went with F37. All right, so I needed to run some extension wires because it wasn't going to reach all the way up to the fuse box. So I connected up to 2 wires, one for power, one for ground, ran it through this wire loom, and now I'm just going to fish it over to the other side. So I'm grounded. It should have power. Slip this on back on. All right, so now I need to hook up the gauge. So I'm going to take these 2 wires right here, these 2 plugs, and I'm going to need to take my gauge pod and I'm going to need to fish them through here. It's kind of small, so I may have to actually drill it out a little bit bigger, probably take a step bit and drill that out a little bigger in order to get those through. Let me take a look and see what happens. That one's not going to make it. Let me see how off the other one. So no, I'm going to have to take a step bit and drill this out just a bit wider. All right, so I made the hole a bit bigger. Let's give it a try now. That one went through no problem. We'll see about this other one. Got both through. Drop the steering wheel down. I think that'll make it a little easier for me. I'll turn off the power to be safe. I want to plug it in. Another cool thing about the AEM gauge with the pass-through is that I can plug in my AEM, and right behind it I can plug in my Air Force. All right, let's give it a try. All right, so I still need to go to the to my muffler guy to weld on the bong onto the exhaust pipe, and I'm going to show you guys that when that happened too as well. But right now it's all hooked up and ready for me to go to the muffler shop for them to weld that up, screw in the O2 sensor, and I'm golden. Then I'm all ready to put in the supercharger.